So for the first time ever, adoption is popping into your mind. And along with that, pop a whole bunch of different fears. So I'm gonna grab my husband, I'm gonna grab some coffee. Join me back here in a second and we're gonna talk real talk about all those fears. Ready? See you in a sec. All right, so coffee and husband were brewing. I picked them up. We are all here. This is my husband, Dustin.
Hello.
We are gonna talk about the real fears that come when you start thinking about adoption. The first big one for us was...
Well, for me specifically was, is this gonna be like having a biological child? Am I gonna love the child? I think that's like the obvious first gut emotional, a little bit of embarrassment of, hey, am I really gonna be, am I a bad person for thinking I'm not gonna love my child?
It's totally normal. That thought, don't feel embarrassed about it. It's normal. If we go through it, I mean, everybody's going through it and it's normal.
Yeah, everybody. I mean, it's the logical fear is this child gonna feel like my child? Or for me, it was like, am I going to be babysitting for 18 years? Mm-hmm. Is that how it's going to feel?
Even though we didn't have biological children, we didn't know what it was like anyway.
We had no idea what it was like.
But we babysat.
And we knew what babysitting was like. And by hour 1, we're like, yeah, this child can go away now, back to their parents.
Yeah.
So it's a fear, because you're not in love with a child yet. I think that's the most important thing is even biological children, parents often don't fall in love with their baby right away. They have to build that relationship,
bond.
that
it
bond.
Comes. Yeah, sometimes it's instant and that's fantastic. For other times it's not, and that's okay. But the love always ends up coming.
That's right.
For you, it took me a while too with our first.
It didn't take me too long. Our first was born, Colin was born, and I was excited. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't in love with him yet. For me, it took like 2 or 3 weeks, I think. And I was like, okay, I get it now. But even going back to the hotel with our baby for the first time.
It was scary.
It was scary, but I was energized. Even with, because you go through a lot of process to get a baby,
mm-hmm.
To adopt a baby.
Yeah, and at the hospital, it's super stressful. Like, are the birth parents going to sign the papers? Are we going to
change their mind
with a new child? Is the child staying here? All of that stress goes into it, so that kind of holds that love for that child at bay until papers are signed and you leave the hospital with that child. That's when all of that can
starts to sink in.
Sinking in.
And you can give up
your
emotion.
Scary for the first time.
And you can, like you said, you can allow yourself to be attached.
Yeah.
There's this protection. You experienced that more than me, but we both experienced that where you have this self-protection of whether or not you're going to love this child fully, mm-hmm. or you're going to, but you're waiting. You're holding that attachment because you don't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
Because it breaks my heart seeing adoption stories where the birth parents change their mind. It happened to us once, mm-hmm. and that wasn't a very long process, which was a mercy. But you put all this time,
and emotion and heart,
money. Money's a real thing. They put all this money into it. People are rooting for you, and that's a thing too. You've got people who are rooting for you, who are asking questions. It's anticipation, just like a pregnancy.
Yeah.
Or similar to, I should say, like mm-hmm. a pregnancy. So you have all that anticipation, and then you're at this precipice mm-hmm. where the child is born, and depending on what state you live in, there's always a period of time where the birth parents,
between child being born and when birth parents can sign papers.
There's this grace period where no matter what has been signed previously, there's a grace period where they can change their mind. But we had more confidence than I think normal because of lifetime adoption. They do a really good job of screening the birth parents to make sure that they are ready, they have the right motives, they're counseled, it's not manipulative. It's just, hey, are you in the spot where you're ready to commit to this and make sure this is where you want to go? And that there's tremendous security. I know there was for us, but there's still that little bit of fear.
Yeah.
So for me, that was that first part. We kind of strayed off the topic a little bit, but the first part was, am I going to love this child? Am I going to feel the same way that biological kids and their parents feel? Is it going to be the same thing?
And what you imagine, like we don't have biological children,
True.
so what we imagine a mom and baby, dad and baby at birth to feel like, we don't know what that is, we just imagine that. So will we feel the same as what we think biological families feel? And we do. The bottom line is you do. It might take you a bit to get there, but you eventually get there. Yeah, which is no different. Yes.
So the conclusion of that was, oh, same. I couldn't love this child anymore.
Yeah, and now I forget that they are adopted.
Yeah.
That their life involves an adoption story. For us, there are kids, and
it doesn't play into your everyday life. It doesn't play into your love for your family. These fears that we're going to talk about are not something that carries into, they don't have fruition into your actual life as an adopted family. It doesn't happen. So that's the great news about this, is these fears are valid. They make a lot of sense.
They're normal.
Those fears you have are not actually realized when you actually adopt and have your child.
Yeah, all of it flies out the window.
Yeah. So the love is intense, and all the things that a parent feels, a parent that had a biological child, it's the same stuff. There's no difference.
So what would you have wanted to be told when you had this and an adoptive family? You were talking about this like we are now with an adoptive family, and you shared that fear. What's one thing that you
would have wanted to hear?
Yeah, or what would you now tell someone?
Well, I would say this. I would say you don't have to worry about that. You do not have to worry about that fear, because the baby's yours. The child is yours.
Genetics don't count.
Genetics don't count.
Yes, genetics don't count.
None of the biology matters when you meet, grow to love the baby, and that child is yours.
The closest thing that I compare it to is, do I love my husband? He is not biological to me.
That would be weird.
That would be very weird.
That would be strange.
But I love him, and I am not leaving him, and I am
bound to him
forever, just like our children are. So if I can love my spouse, if I can love this,
oh my gosh, it's a great
and my best friends and all of that, and us not be biological, then the same love goes for a child. We have to get over these fairy tale ideas that it's going to be perfect from day one, and we're going to feel love.
It's a magical biological connection.
Yeah, it's not. And it's not if you have biological children either. And it's not when you meet your spouse. You don't have this like pixie dust flutters down and we float and we kiss and life is perfect. Like we have to get past that fairy tale idea of what adoption would be, or foster care would be, or overseas adoption. But we work through those, and the bottom line is love. It's not an idea, it's not a fairy tale, it's true everyday love that you are choosing with anything, choosing to love that thing, that person. Like,
and then emotions.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like loving him, and sometimes I don't.
Right, but what I was going to say is
but
emotions.
But you don't feel that, right?
Right, you're always emotionally charged by you all the time. No, emotions come with those choices. The emotion attaches to those choices. Make the choice to love this child. You've adopted this child, and that child is going to be your world, just like any other child.
Which is pretty beautiful.
So that's the first fear.
So the next fear would be, will you feel like something's missing?
Yeah. Will you feel like something's missing? Or will you feel like, hey, I love my children, they're adopted, I love them, but is it going to be the same as the biological families? And the answer is, yeah.
It is, yeah.
The same.
When we parent our children, I feel like we are every other family. There is nothing to me that feels missing. They are our world. I mean, we love them to heaven and back.
We
and
wouldn't trade them for
we wouldn't
nothing.
trade them, change them, nothing. I've heard people say before that parenting adoptive kids is different than biological kids, and we don't know how that would be
any different.
So to us, we feel totally normal. The way that we yell at our kids is the same way that our neighbors yell at their kids.
Yeah, they yell at them too. We yell at ours.
Yeah, parenting is parenting. No matter how the kids came to you, they are entrusted to you. They are yours. You get to imprint yourselves on them in such a beautiful way. So we want to help throw out that fear that parenting is the same, that loving them is the same,
Problems are the same.
Problems are all the same.
There's some different ones with adoption.
There's different, yes.
You know,
that could very well.
And realize we're speaking in generalities.
Yes.
Generality.
This is all general.
Yeah. You say that. Try generalities. Generalities?
General out.
It's a tough one. Do it again. Well, we're speaking in general terms about these situations, about adoption. So if you're in a hard situation, you have adopted kids, and maybe you've adopted older kids.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it's a tough situation. We're not speaking about that. You know, we're speaking in general terms as to the difference, all things being equal, between a biological kid and a non-biological kid. So obviously,
and getting them at birth or a young child.
Yeah.
Like that's where the generality can come. When you're getting into foster care and adopting older children, that's a whole different level.
That's the thing. We'll do a video on that.
There's trauma that kids are going through that you need to be their stable rock. You won't want to feel like their stable rock. You might not feel like loving them, but as parents, like I feel like we have to remember whatever fears are in our heads, we are thinking about a kid, a child, a baby who needs a family, who needs parents, who needs that stable
upbringing,
home, who needs to be shown what healthy relationships look like, to be shown what true love looks like, to be shown that they don't need to perform to be loved.
Yeah.
There's so much trauma and so much mental illness and all of this that comes from kids coming out of the system, or even orphanages overseas. You don't often know what they've been exposed to, and you are taking that on as a whole. So when they come to you, when they come into your home, no matter what problems and baggage they're coming with, you are their rock. You are not going anywhere. You are loving them through it. You are teaching them through it. Your family unit is growing and changing and supporting them through it. So that's really important. It's not all going to be, like I said, lollipops and unicorns. It's going to be real life. Whether you get the child as an infant or you get the child as a teenager, real life crap is there, and it's our job to teach them and show them
how to deal with
life. Yes. And it's not going to be easy. We're not saying things are going to be easy, but we're saying that we're going to be there and we're going to parent them the same.
Yeah, and that it's not going to feel different.
Yeah.
All things being equal.
Yeah.
I mean, a biological child can cause as much havoc and pain and
mental illness.
Doubt,
you never know
that
how they're going to be born.
Adoption can. You know, there's just more. There are more risks, especially overseas, and like Tami said, orphanage adoption.
I know for me, a fear that I had was, am I going to feel normal? I want to feel like a normal mom. I'm not experiencing pregnancy, so I want to feel normal. I want to get that baby shower. I want to get a flower on Mother's Day. I want to have the meals brought to me when we bring our child home. I want all those normal things. And let me just tell you though, a plus to adoption is you have that brand new baby, like a week taking Colin or Dane or Ainsley at their 1 week appointment to the doctor, and the doctors forgot or didn't realize that adoption was how they came to us, they're telling me how good I look for a 1-week-old baby. Like, girl, you look amazing for just having, or with Colin, like, how was he born? C-section? Girl, you look amazing for just having a C-section.
Straight trooper.
Okay, I tell you what, I said thank you every time. Every time.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do. Thank you. So embrace those moments. Those are really fun moments. But I wanted to feel normal. For our first, and I wanted a child to look like me. I have to be honest. I thought, as I was praying to the Lord and going through healing and excited about this next journey, excited about raising our family, I was afraid that I wasn't going to feel like a normal mom, whatever that looked like.
What you imagined motherhood
What
to
I
be.
imagined, motherhood to be. And everybody, when that baby's born, what's the first thing that people say? Oh my gosh, it looks like so much like you, or it looks so much like your husband.
Which is crap. All babies are identical
to be honest.
To me, it's a baby. It just was born. It's a little lizard.
Yeah.
You know?
So in my prayers to the Lord about what our child might look like, I selfishly wanted one to look like us.
Sure.
And God answered that prayer. Every one of our kids' birth families chose us, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. And that's different in foster care. It's different than overseas adoption. But when you can get matched up with a family and they choose you, that's a beautiful thing to be able to share with your kids as they're growing up, as they are understanding adoption more, as you're talking about their adoption story with pride. Always share it with pride. Facts, age appropriate, but with pride. We always want our kids to feel, oh my gosh, mom and dad are so proud and happy to share our adoption story.
Yeah.
You know, we never want them to feel like we're hiding anything, that we're ashamed in any way. It is the complete opposite, and that shows. And our kids are proud of their adoption stories. They talk about adoption like it's
normal.
Get in the newspaper,
it is.
you know? So,
we've shared their adoption story with them from the time they could understand. Introduced them to their birth parents and pictures and stories appropriate, and then actually talking to their birth parents. So that was us. That's our story. That's what we like. That was our preference. Going through lifetime adoption was our direction and our heart, and it fit us personally. But it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many avenues for adoption. We're just sharing our avenue.
And that takes us to our next fear is, what if the birth family changes their mind? What if things don't end up? That's a huge fear when you're thinking about adoption. What's going to happen? So you have to go into it knowing that that's a risk, but it's not always going to happen. Does it happen? Yes.
It does.
One of my doctors at one point said adopting a baby is like buying a house. It's not yours until you sign the dotted line. Like, it's similar. You know, you go through all this prep work, you are ready for that child, but that ownership doesn't begin, even if your heart's there, it doesn't begin until that is signed. And whether that's going to get signed or not sometimes is really scary. But know that it's normal. Everybody has the same fear. My biggest thing that I tell adoptive parents is be open and honest and talk. If you have a fear in your mind about the birth family changing their mind, ask them.
Absolutely. Ask as many questions as you possibly can.
I got brave enough with our second to ask these questions. How are you feeling today? Are you going to change your mind?
Right. Right.
What's happening here?
You're still cool with us.
Yeah. What can I get you? What would, you just ask anything that crosses your mind. Don't assume. Don't wonder. Just ask. Just be upfront with everything. Put yourself in her shoes and think about what she's going through and what she might want from us as an adoptive family, and give that back to her. And that alleviates so many fears.
My fears with the birth family changing their mind, or specifically the birth mom, that's usually who
Yeah, she's the
has
driving
she's
force
the
there.
driving
She's
force.
the one birthing that
She's
child.
doing
She's
all
going to
the
be the
work.
first one to sign the papers.
And
It's
the
important.
one that is in most risk of changing their mind.
She's emotionally, like
Yeah,
all those
like,
hormones
come on,
kick
that's
in when that
brutal.
baby's born, and that's how God intended it. So they have to be mentally strong enough to be able to sign those papers 72 hours or whatever it is.
And they
after
have to have the
baby's
right
born.
motivation.
Did you fear birth parents changing their mind?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what went through your mind?
I was just, reserved in my heart that a birth mother would change her mind. Even we had a really good relationship in the outgo with the first and second adoption, and we had time with them. The third adoption, we didn't have much time with her.
We had 3 weeks.
We only had 3
between they
weeks.
asked us to be her parents and she was born. So that's really fast.
And that's a high risk situation.
Yeah.
No matter what situation it is, 3 weeks is a long time.
Yeah.
Our first two, we had a lot of time, so we built a relationship. We got to ask those questions gradually and get to know them and get to know us. And that's much less risky. It's much less of a risk that the birth mother is going to say, I've changed my mind, because they've gotten to know you. They see the
They trust
investment,
you.
they trust you. They're much more comfortable with that decision. It's still going to be heartbreaking, and you always have to be sensitive to the birth mother, birth family. As excited as you are for this child, it's very important to be considerate, to be to nurture, to provide, be a support for the birth mother, because this is a very difficult time for her.
Yeah,
Extremely
it's one
difficult.
extreme to the other. There is a lot of grieving on one side and there is a lot of joy on the other. And to be sensitive to both, to understand as much as we can what a birth family is going through and to love them through it and to be there to support them through it, and then not flaunt our joy on the other side.
Right.
When you're at the hospital, not having flowers delivered to you, have them
Yeah.
delivered to your birth mom. Give her flowers, bring her favorite meal. We gave each of our birth moms a special gift to thank them for,
For what they're
come
doing.
on, yeah. So, and it's a small token compared to the lifelong decision that they made, but it's a tangible way to say thank you that they can have and keep and look at that. And you want to honor them. Honor them on Birth Mother's Day. Honor them on Mother's Day. Just honor them.
Yeah.
Honor them in the way that you talk about them to your children. That's a big one too.
And you want to make sure that they don't feel like the only reason why you're talking to them or paying attention to them is because
You want your child.
They're going to give you a child. That's like they're a dispenser of some kind, and that's not what you want. So you want to make them feel like you not only love this baby, but you love them, and that they are important for who they are, not for what they can give you. And so that's very important.
That's a big deal.
However that is expressed by you, just make sure that is communicated, and I tell you what, that'll go a long way into making sure that the adoption will be successful, and that everyone will have a good experience, and there won't be pain from it.
So along with the fear of the birth family changing their mind, after that period where they can't change their mind, there is depends on the state, but in California it was a year. We were up in Alaska, it was 6 months. In Nevada, 6 months, where that is a transition period where the birth family really can't come back and change their mind. They could sue you for custody if they found something was amiss.
They had a reason, somehow.
A big reason to sue you to have it changed, but they can't just come back and say they've changed their mind, they want the baby back. That 6 months is a transition period for the social workers to come in to make sure that it's really to protect the adoptive family and the child, really, that we are good parents to this baby. They want to come see the baby. They want to see the baby growing. They want to know that the baby's been to the doctor. They're in a good environment, that we are who we said we would be when they did the previous home study. So that 6 months, it's like one visit from the social worker every month for 6 months, and then the state can sign off and say, yes, they are good parents. Here it is. But in that 6 months, and with our third, it was up to a year, where they had to come in and do
evaluation
and evaluate us. And even with our third, we had our home study and our background checks all done, but California wanted us to have it done again. So we had to go through the whole thing a second time, like basically to do 2 home studies, which is not normal. So there's
not
always
a good time.
No, and there's always a fear that something's going to go wrong. Like, so on that day where that 6 months is up and that finalization comes up, it is a party, y'all. It's a party because the state signs off that
That's a
this
good day.
child is officially a Maytan or whatever
irrevocably
forever yours, forever has your last name. And it is a beautiful day to celebrate. A lot of families call that Gotcha Day. We don't celebrate Gotcha Day. Since we got all of our babies at day 1, that was their Gotcha Day, so their birthdays are a big deal. I don't even remember when their, adoptions were final. I just know it happened and that's all I cared about.
Yeah.
So there is that time where you think, oh my gosh, something could happen. It's a really, really, really low chance that something could happen during that 6 months to a year for finalized, but the fear is always there. Yes.
So we had that was our kind of last fear with adoption was now you've had this time to just fall in deep, deep love.
Oh, yes.
Like deep, like
all the other
painful
fears are
love.
out the window.
So you've had the time to love this child, and now this child is yours and irrevocably
and you don't want
stitched
anything
into
to
your
happen.
heart.
Yeah.
And the love is intense. So the fact that there's this 0.00001 chance that something could happen and the child, your child can be taken away from you, there's that fear. I know you had it a lot more than I did.
Yeah, for me it was child number 2, where birth father came out of the woodworks after birth mom had signed everything. It was supposed to be a quick 30-day finalization, not 6 months, but 30 days. That's rare. I think it should all be like that, but it's another issue.
Another bag.
Yeah. Where birth dad came out of the woodwork, but found out that adoption was
going down.
How this, was going down. He came out and started fighting. So we had to go through that. That was a huge fear for me that I had already fallen in love with this child. I was up at night with him. I was his mama, I'm nurturing, loving, raising, all this stuff. And he's just weeks old. And the thought of having to fly back to that state and give him to this man just killed me. It killed me. I now have a tattoo that says I shall not fear. Because of what I went through with that, I started fearing everything in my life. And God has since brought me through that. And so now I'm not going to fear if it's something little. God's bigger than that. Yeah. But that stuff creeps up. That's the unexpected. There are unexpected things that can happen with adoption, and your heart just has to be, okay, these things could happen. We're along for the ride. This child is worth fighting for. We are not going to give up.
So the important thing here is those fears will come up, but take courage that if you are a healthy parent and you've got a healthy relationship with the birth mom
and each other, that's a big deal.
Then it's going to be okay.
No matter what it is, you face it together and you reach out, you ask people. We are here. Ask us any questions.
Yes.
Come on over to our Facebook page. It's listed down below in the description. We get in depth with all these topics. You are more than welcome to private message me and ask me your questions, and I would love to talk you through it.
It's always nice to ask people and just to talk with people who've gone through it. I know for us, we had conversations with many adopted families, and it was very helpful.
It helps a lot.
It was
You're not in this alone. You kind of feel like you're alone, but really you're not. And everybody wants to be involved. Everybody wants to hear how you're doing.
And just do this as an experiment. Talk to adoptive families, and I think it would be very hard to find one that would be less than enthusiastic to talk to you. That's how amazing adoption is.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it
That's
becomes
really
your favorite thing.
Yeah.
And adoption is our favorite thing. So don't be afraid to reach out, get support. You're going to need support, and also people to celebrate with you, because it's an amazing adventure. These fears can keep you from enjoying and experiencing the magic and wonder
true.
that adoption is.
Yeah. So don't let fear,
Don't let that happen.
Don't let it keep you from this amazing journey. And you yourself will be changed for the better. Your children will be changed for the better.
Mm-hmm.
It is a really beautiful thing that we want everyone to experience. But I know it's not the road for everyone. But if it is, please don't let fear, like Dustin said, keep you from it, because it is really beautiful.
Yeah, and people will walk you through it. When with Colin, our firstborn, we didn't know what adoption would bring, but everyone walked us through it.
Yeah.
You're not just alone, ready to make a mistake, and they go, "Oh, you made a mistake. You can't do this." Everybody, all the officials, lawyers, judges.
They are all cheering you on. All the social workers, the
adoption agencies, like,
they
again,
want this to be successful for you.
Yeah, lifetime adoption for us, wonderful in walking us through things and telling us what we needed and organizing it, and it was great. So find someone you're comfortable with. If you're going to go the route we went, lifetime adoption is, we highly recommend them. But there's wonderful ones all over the place. So scout them out and make a choice.
So subscribe right here and like this video, share it with your friends, come on over to Facebook with us, and stay tuned for the outtakes, because here they come.
And there's other videos. Make sure you go watch those and enjoy those and comment and be a part of our community. We love you.
We do.
Outtakes. Bing. And then go, hey, that was a good one. Wait.
You're too close to me.
Wait.
Oh, I go now?
You do go. It is not the Dustin channel.
The next fear.
Hey now, take a step outside and seize the day.